Loka Shimu Kwara, and welcome to In Taiwan We Speak, your audio guide to Taiwan's mind-blowing linguistic diversity. I am Alexander Shin, and today we continue our conversation with Eri Liao, an Atayal Japanese singer, now Eri, traditional Atayal lullabies. That's not something we talk about a lot. What are those? Share with us.
Yeah, this has some pretty interesting story behind why I started singing lullaby in Taiwan. So I was in this theater production in Japan, and there was a musical theater. And this composer and producer, he talked to me. He said, Eri, I think I want you to sing a lullaby to close the show. And I want you to sing this in Taiwan. And I was like, okay. And then he said, because he's famous for collaborating with artists from all over the world. And he said this is how he usually closes his work, by having one of these singers sing their lullaby in their ancestral languages.
Interesting.
Yeah, because he said the reason is, every culture has lullabies. Makes sense. But then I was like, wait, I don't know any Thai lullabies, and I've never heard that. Not that I've never been sung, but I've never heard. I don't even know that it exists. But I think he's right, because I feel like every culture should have lullabies, because that's the most natural way of a mother to sing. It feels like something very natural for every human being to do.
But in what language did your mom sing you lullabies?
Mandarin Chinese.
And your grandma in
Japanese.
In Japanese. Okay.
So I was so confused. And this composer, he's Japanese, and it has nothing to do with this composer himself. But of course, looking at the history, why my grandma sang Japanese lullabies to me is because she was banned to sing in Taiwan during the colonization. So I'm so sorry to feel like this to this composer, but okay, this colonizer came to me and asked me to sing a Thai lullaby that you took away from us. And then, it's it's not fair to say. I didn't say that to him, but part of me was like, why are you asking me to do that? You are the one who robbed us of our lullabies. But and then I felt, I shouldn't feel that, but I felt so ashamed, because I've been singing so many indigenous songs to the Japanese audience, and of course they think I can of course sing lullabies, but then I don't know them at all. Luckily, I didn't have to sing it at that moment when he asked me. So I came back home and I was like, okay, let me go into the database. So I just went to the database and I looked through the field recording from the 90s or around the 80s. In Taiwan, you can just go into the open library and check all the recordings from the field works done. I don't remember, maybe any time after the 60s or 70s, if they exist. So I went through them all. And Taiwan is kind of widespread, and on the map it looks like it's not a huge area, but because there are so many mountains, it's kind of impossible to go from A to B. It looks so close, but you have 10 mountains between them, so technically you don't travel that far. So the language can be very different sometimes. So some of the recordings are labeled as Thai lullaby, but I don't really recognize the language.
All right.
And I found this one song that I understood the meaning. It's not really from our village, but I can tell where the song is from. We use different dialects, but I can tell because some of my relatives live there. I was like, okay, I'll do this one. And then I learned it from the field recording.
And did you end up performing it?
I performed it at the stage. And people loved it. I think, at first I didn't really feel like telling them this story I just told you. Like I said, I felt ashamed that I didn't know it, and I felt somehow they're guilty. I think I was confused how to really digest what happened to me, this whole story. And then after a little while, then I started playing this like sing this lullaby and play piano by myself. And that helped me a lot. Piano it's like a different language, and it's really good to express my emotions in a musical language. And it's a lullaby, so it has this, like healing power within the song. So yeah, now I sometimes perform it, and when I have chance, I try to share the story with people.
It's a very beautiful story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And there is, of course, a very popular stereotype in Taiwan that Indigenous people are good singers. And I know it's a stereotype, but also last time I went to AKTV with my Indigenous friends, they did make everyone turn their heads.
I can clearly imagine that.
What else do you think Taiwanese, let's say mainstream society, Han Taiwanese, misunderstood about Indigenous singing culture?
I think I have to agree that there are so many great singers. There are. And I think it's something we can really proud of. But of course, there are bad singers too. And yeah, and when we say Indigenous singers, we forget that there are 16 different tribes with 16 different musical cultures. I can only talk about Taiwan, but we only have 3 or 4 notes in our scale. It sounds kind of like minimal music or even techno.
Techno.
Yeah, it's like it goes it goes away all through the night like this. That's why I enjoyed going to the nightclub. I don't know. I'm just joking, but it's really like that. It's not about being musical, but it's more rhythmical. Like a lot of Han Chinese, and including Indigenous ourselves, when we talk about like our music, people often use this phrase "ho haya," or and it's beautiful. I love it. And even my grandma, like all my family loves singing ho haya, but this is not Taiwan. It's probably Amis or people on the East Coast. And we're in the mountains. We never ho haya'd in our lives, I think. And probably at some point we liked it and we just implemented it, but it's not from our original, ho haya. But many people think that's how Indigenous people sing. I love listening to all these field recordings from the fieldworks, including the Japanese colonial era. People in Taiwan sing more like they're murmuring. So when we imagine how Indigenous people sing, it's like we're projecting our voice in the huge air in front of the huge wide ocean, But we're up in the mountains, and if we scream, then all the animals will, will know like that's where exactly you are. And it's not the best idea.
Makes sense.
So when we sing, almost all the recordings, we sing like murmuring. And that's not what people imagine when they think about Indigenous singing. I love both the projecting vocal style and the murmuring style. And I also love these like misunderstandings and the stereotypes. What makes everything funny and light. So yeah, I like it. I sing ho haya all the time.
Well, I didn't include this question in the outline, but I read something on your Facebook yesterday. You wrote that you were attending resilience training by Kuma Academy.
Yeah, I just signed up for it.
Yeah, is it okay if I ask you about that?
Sure.
Well, the whole world knows about Taiwan, right? Through news, through geopolitics,
right.
We talk a lot, especially since the war in Ukraine started. A lot of people talk about Taiwan as
right.
some even called it the most dangerous place, island on earth. But for you and me, of course, it's Taiwan, a country of food and nature and beauty. And it's a homeland of Atayal people and other Indigenous people and all the Taiwanese people.
Yeah.
How do you navigate this contrast in people's perceptions when you leave Taiwan or when you talk with people outside of Taiwan?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And yeah, especially like I spent a lot of time in Japan, and in Japan there's this specific word we use for where we are now in Taiwan. It's called, in Japanese, it's Taiwan Yuji. It's in, wow, how can I translate it? Like, Taiwan has something. So there's something in Taiwan.
All right.
Basically, that's it. So people know, like, there's something in Taiwan, as if something's wrong with Taiwan. But, they're talking about this relationship between China. And yeah, when I say I'm going back to Taiwan, they're like, is that okay? Are you sure? You should bring your family to Japan. But when I'm here, I feel like this is some kind of heaven. Like, every time I walk in the park, it's so safe. I can walk in the park at like 11 or even midnight and wearing my shorts, or like the smallest clothes I can wear, and it's safe. But at the same time, we feel that it's safe in that sense, but this safety can be ended if something happens. And especially when I compare regular conversations between Japanese people and between Taiwan, like people in Taiwan, like, we just casually say, well, when China dropped the bomb, then blah blah blah. But in Japan, people never ever said something like that so casually. So I feel like, we have to live our lives no matter what. We are okay, but we are always kind of aware. And we always have something in our mind. And I signed up for this workshop at Kuma Academy because I think, well, what happened to my cat? If something happens, I have to at least have some kind of knowledge. I don't want to panic. When everything's in panic, I want to have some control for myself. So I think it's not a bad idea to know something about the war. Especially, I didn't grow up here, and because I heard from my friends that when they were in high school, they had this class about the war, but I never had that kind of classes. So I felt like I have to do some kind of self-education. So I was glad that I could sign up for the workshop. But so many Japanese friends of mine were like, oh, that you signed up for it, that means, oh, it's really happening. It's not like that, but yeah, in Taiwan, we have this balance. We live our lives as normal, but we are aware that sometimes it can be not normal. I think we're more realistic in Taiwan. And that's what makes us strong in a way, I think. But it's kind of hard to explain to people outside of Taiwan. Yeah, I love how people can be realistic and not panicking. Well, we can panic sometimes, but we try to do our best.
To have accepted this as part of life already. Now, we're nearing the end of our episode, but of course we have to talk about your new album that's upcoming. Please tell us more about it. What is there to expect for our audience?
Okay, so this album is probably the best album for this show because this album has so many languages in it. We recorded as a group. Our name is Aza Roots, and Aza means the wings in Portuguese, and roots, English as, the roots. And why we have Portuguese in our band name is because we have a Brazilian musician in the band, the Japanese Brazilian guitarist I just told you about when I talked about the Waters of March, right? Yeah, so that's the band. Me, Atayal Japanese, and Brazilian Japanese, and Japanese. He said he felt so boring. but that's, And I think it's really interesting because we all met in Tokyo and we all have some roots in Japan, but we have very different background. And we do music. And our musical styles are very different too. The Japanese guitar player, he's more like rock oriented. And Marcelo, the Brazilian one, he plays Brazilian music, and that's why he's in Japan. And I'm like this Atayal Japanese who studied jazz in New York. So we have very different musical background, and we try to play the music together. So there are 2 Brazilian songs that I translated from English, and I co-wrote some song with Marcelo. I sing in Atayal, and he sings in Portuguese. And some back chorus, we sang in Atayal. Wow. So I think he could be the first Brazilian Japanese who sang in Thailand. I don't think there are too many.
Yeah, I could imagine.
So
That doesn't happen often.
I don't think so. And yeah, so that in that sense, the album is very, very special for me. And yeah, I'm so glad that I could make this CD. Now we're planning to release on, what was the release date? July 25th? Yeah, I think it's July 25th.
Oh, okay. So probably our listeners will hear this episode on the radio and podcasts before
great.
the release of your album. Looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Eri.
Thank you so much, Oleg.
And everyone else, thank you for listening. I was Oleg, and this was In Taiwan We Speak.